So last year, right after the Lions got knocked out of the playoffs, as I do with a lot of teams, I actually do this with every team, is like I kind of go through and say, okay, where are you at right now? Who are your free agents? Who do you have to sign? And what I did with the Lions, because I thought they were in a bit of a unique scenario, is I also did some projections for future years. Kind of said how long can this window last? Because on one hand, hey, a lot of your players are pretty young. That's a good thing. Having a lot of young players, that should keep your window open for a while. The, of course, flip side, though, is that because they've drafted so well and have gotten so many young players, they're going to have to start paying these guys soon. And in fact, they've already had to start paying a decent amount of these guys. And so because of that, that means that, it's a good problem to have, but part of why you've been, because you drafted so well, you now might have some potential issues just with salary cap and keeping everybody. However, since I made that video, well, a decent amount has changed. The Lions have gone out and they've made some moves. They've extended some guys already. So I figured making a video now, kind of seeing where we're at, could be interesting. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get into the video. First, let's talk about where they're going to be at this upcoming offseason. So this first chart is going to be the situation they're at after the 2024 season. I put some key free agents on the list along with just their projected cap number. This is projecting for a cap increase over the cap. Actually, it tends to be pretty good at projecting the cap increase, although not always perfect. So, we'll see. But yeah, this is what they're projecting. And you see kind of the real key one is Taylor Decker, who you have to think is going to eat up a good chunk of that salary cap. But this is where the benefit of locking up some of these guys now comes in. Like, for example, extending Jared Goff, what it kind of does is actually keeps his cap a little bit low for these next couple of years. So because of that, you're in that current situation. So because of it, you should be okay, actually. So earlier, I was kind of saying this might kind of be the one all-in year for the Lions. I don't believe that to be the case. I think they could have another, I don't know if I would say all-in year, but I do think they should be good for at least another year. I don't think there's like, oh my God, you're about to be in cap hell right after this season type of situation. But again, you'd like to be able to have someone like Taylor Decker. You want to make sure you're able to keep him. I think where things start to get a little bit tougher is the following year. After the 2025 season, keep in mind, you would see a $68 million cap, how much money you would have at that point. But a couple things to keep in mind. For one, you, like I said, probably want to keep Taylor Decker. So you're probably going to be looking at, 20 to 25 million of that chopped off. And on top of it, again, just a lot of players you will have to sign, just a lot of pieces, right? Maybe not the star players, but some role players and just filling out a roster. On top of it, you have DJ Reader and Kirby Joseph, who will just be straight up free agents. Aiden Hutchinson and Jamison Williams, who will be, free agents, but you have a 5th-year option with them, which I'm assuming the Lions are just going to accept. It would make sense to do that. So because of that, I think that's where you'll get. But still, those are cap increases. Again, you're going to kind of be actually struggling to pay everybody. You probably could pay everybody, but like I said, kind of the issue isn't necessarily just with being able to keep everyone. It's also with, can you add pieces? Can you get guys in free agency, which is going to be something you're going to want to do. And then after 2026, you're in a current situation where, quite frankly, there's a lot of pieces. They had a really good draft, right? The benefit of having a really good draft is you have some good players. The downside is you're then going to have to pay those good players. So this is, Frank Ragnow and Graham Glasgow are not new players, but they're still, players that will be due for contracts and will probably get some money. And then 4 rookies of, Gibbs and Campbell, who we'll see how Jack Campbell develops in year 2. Gibbs was very good. Those guys are going to need some money. And again, you'll have the 5th-year option for those 2, but 5th-year options aren't that cheap. They're essentially franchise tags. And Sam Laporta and Brian Branch, you don't have the luxury of a 5th-year option. You're going to have to pay those guys right away as well. I decided not to put the actual salary cap they had because I think it's something like they have like over $100 million projected for that year, but it's very kind of, they have like most of a roster they're going to have to sign. I think they only have like 13 players signed on at that point. So again, we're a long ways away from that. But There's, I think, good things and bad things about the current situation the Lions are in. The good thing is that, at least one good thing is that they pretty much have the money to re-sign most of these players. It doesn't seem like it's going to be that difficult to get the key players back on board. I don't think they're about to lose, I don't think they're losing Taylor Decker, right? I just don't think that's happened. I don't think they're losing Hutchinson. I think those guys, they're going to find ways to keep. I think the issue is maybe necessarily with okay, this offseason they were able to go out and add Carlton Davis and add DJ Reader and try to shore up, aspects of this team that needs shoring up. Will you be able to do that in future years seems a little bit less likely. But again, that's not the end of the world. If you have a team that can contend for a Super Bowl, having a team that can contend for a Super Bowl for several years is not the end of the world whatsoever. You also are, in a situation where, like I said, a lot of these players are younger, so they should be, I don't think there's a lot of players that are about to fall off a cliff anytime soon. Although another issue you have to look at is that now the Lions are past their getting a lot of good draft capital phase. I thought they still had a good draft last year. Who knows what I think, or who cares? What I think is just one person's opinion. You never know. But it seemed like they had a pretty good draft. But, like I said, we are kind of in the situation where they just don't have as much draft capital as they had after the Stafford trade, right? They currently still have 7 upcoming picks in this next draft, but they don't have a third, and they have 2 sevenths. And, if they're contending for Super Bowls, this means that they're not quite going to be getting super great draft picks. But I actually do think that, even though, in 2026, Jared Goff's cap hit is supposed to be $70 million because it's a more backloaded deal, actually kind of a mid-loaded deal, weirdly, but, that's where what you're currently looking at. That seems insanely high that he's going to be making 25 of the, I believe that would be the current cap, not the projected cap, but still 25% of the current cap, feels like a lot, right? But I actually think the Lions have done an okay job at kind of really planning this out properly. And, heading into the offseason, I was kind of viewing the Lions as hey, this might be an all-in type push. I think what they did with some of the extensions that they signed is, even if they went for the right amount of money, they've spread it out in the correct amount of years to where they've really extended this window, in my opinion. And I am not as into the Lions should be going all in to win a Super Bowl right now this year type of mindset as I was entering the offseason. However, I still think it's probably a good idea to make a strong push to try and be as good as possible, and I wouldn't hate trading away a draft pick or two for a player if the opportunity arises, largely due to the fact that I think the issue with the Lions, the great thing with the Lions is they have a good team, and they should be able to keep this good team together. The bad thing is, well, what if there's other issues? What if you have a situation where Aiden Hutchinson tears the Achilles and just isn't the same? That, hopefully it doesn't happen, but it's football. Those kind of things do happen. And if that does happen, well, now you're kind of in a situation where it's going to be tougher for you to, to deal with that and to manage that than it has been for really, this offseason and last offseason. But yeah, as a whole, kind of my main thought, do the Lions have to win now if they're going to win it all? No, they don't. They could win it. They could win it in 3 years. That's an option. So I don't think they need to panic. Although I still would say, if it's me, I'm probably still putting some chips on the table. Maybe not as much as I would have been entering the offseason. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on all of this. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.